Hello, my name is Andrew Craggs. I'm the Senior Reserve Manager at Lindisfarne National Nature Reserve, working for Natural England. Welcome to my presentation on some of the amazing species and habitats that make up Lindisfarne National Nature Reserve. A broad outline of the National Nature Reserve, comprising mainly intertidal areas, so from Cheswick Black Rocks in the north, just south of Berwick-upon-Tweed, running all the way to the Causeway, to Holy Island, and the North Shore. That's predominantly a large intertidal sandy beach, slightly muddier towards the outflow of the burn there and towards the Causeway. The embayment, the large embayment of Fenham Flats and Holy Island Sands to the south of the Causeway, and the central area here and to the south comprising rich zostera beds. The mainland side of the intertidal area extending from Beale Point, continually following this line approximately here to this area here, is our extensive salt marsh areas. And then you have the rocky shore of Holy Island, comprising the two sandy embayments of Caushaven and Sandon Bay. Then the rocky shore of the east side of the island and the south of the island, including St Cuthbert's Island, the large open beaches of Ross Sands, and then going into the extensive embayment of Budle Bay, comprising sandier, larger particles on the outer mouth, with muddier mud flats and zostera beds within the inner bay. The extensive duneland of Holy Island, comprising the Snook, Big Bank, that's the narrow section, and then the large links area, and then the freshwater lough, which is bounded by the farmland on Holy Island. So as I just mentioned, the intertidal area makes up the majority of the National Nature Reserve. Extensive mudflats to the south here of the Causeway, with large numbers of worm casts there, indicating a high invertebrate population. A quick picture here of the zostera. That's narrow-leaved zostera. We get both narrow-leaved and broad-leaved angustifolia zostera. The rocky shore on the island, extensive salt marsh, and then going on quickly onto the duneland. We've got the full gradation of duneland habitats. Nice picture here of a nice transient slack. The slack areas are the low-lying areas between the higher dune. That's the dry slack. A wetter slack with some of the largest concentrations of Schoenus nigricans or black bog rush. And arguably, the species which is known far and wide is the large populations of light-bellied brent geese that we get, which utilise predominantly the intertidal areas, grazing on the zostera beds. This is the East Atlantic race of light-bellied brent. So a quick map here identifying the East Atlantic population, which breeds in the high Arctic and Svalbard, and then overwinters predominantly in Denmark and at Lindisfarne. There's a small population in the Netherlands as well. But the population numbers some between 10 and 11,000, and our counts at the moment is between 3,500 and 4,000. So around just under 50% of the world population are using Lindisfarne between September and late February into March. The East Canadian light-bellied brent geese, which are stronghold overwinter in the western parts of the UK and Ireland, we have had increasing numbers of those birds frequenting the National Nature Reserve as well, identified by ringing records. So again, when you come to Lindisfarne during the autumn winter months, that's what you expect to see: mass flights of birds within the intertidal area. Amazing sight. Highest concentrations are between October and November, when we're getting 3,500 to 4,000 light-bellied brent, 6,000 to 7,000 pink-footed geese and widgeon here, and encouragingly numbers are now above 20,000, and they're frequenting those intertidal areas as well. Again, using those intertidal areas as safe refuge and roosting areas, but also feeding on the extensive zostera, calorific, rich zostera beds. Pintail, a nice drake there, between 150 to 250 pintail recorded most seasons. Widgeon in the background of that shot there with a nice flock of barnacle geese. Barnacle geese now occur in internationally important numbers, a relatively recent phenomenon. That's the flock from Svalbard, breeding in similar habitat to light-bellied brent, and they use Lindisfarne on passage to the Solway, but between 1,500 and 2,000 are with us for the bulk of the season before heading back north. A nice grey geese selection here. So there's the pinks, mass flight of pinks there on the left-hand side on adjacent farmland at Beardle Bay, with a close-up shot of grey lag. Pinks are now the most numerous goose, grey goose on the island, on the National Nature Reserve, with grey lag falling to between 500 and 1,000 birds, predominantly because of shore stopping further in the northern Scotland on the islands. Shelduck, our shelduck population again has also increased in recent years, with great vantage points at the White Railings at Beardle Bay. Eider duck, not so positive. Numbers are continuing to decline, along with many other sites along the east coast. A heron, another species of the intertidal and farmland on the island. So some of our wading birds aren't faring as well as our wildfowl, our ducks and geese. Lapwing there, redshank, also numbers decreasing. Knot have also decreased largely over the whole of the National Nature Reserve. And bar-tailed godwit, also of concern. We still have numbers in an internationally important significance, but those numbers have declined, and they're approximately 25% of their former number. So the interest in switches in spring and summer to our shorebirds, our breeding shorebirds and passage shorebirds. We have a breeding protection scheme which operates from late April until early September, where we have a series of refuges, currently 5, dotted around the reserve to protect declining species such as little tern. Numbers occur the highest at Lindisfarne in the whole of Northumberland. We've been particularly successful with the expansion of the scheme in improving productivity numbers by using a range of methods with electric fencing, boundary rope, extensive signage, and crucially on-site presence, whether that be with reserve staff, seasonal wardens, or our amazing band of volunteers. So we tend to have a hands-off approach to the bulk of our shorebird breeding activity, but we do intervene when necessary. So these anti-COVID ring plover igloos prove particularly successful when you get a persistent carrying crow or jackdaw incursion. The extensive refuges also protect non-breeding birds. So birds on passage or non-breeding birds, a nice mixed flock there of eider duck, oyster catcher, and bar-tailed godwit. So the other star species of importance is ring plover, one of my favourites. Most important site in Northumberland for breeding ring plover, internationally important for passage birds. Oyster catcher, in terms of breeding, we have between 5 and 10 birds breeding within the 5 former protection zones. So a quick look of at some of the constantly changing coastline of the island and the geomorphology aspects. So a shot there taken in 2003. This is, as the slide says, the North Shore, just before you get to Green Shield. Same picture taken in 2006. You can see vegetation starting to establish, and then a jump ahead to 2014, where you see a complete accretion and establishment of a large dune area. So this dune area is managed. The link section is grazed, which between September and January, with 30 head of mixed breed cattle. They range over approximately 105 hectares, and they help maintain the conditions of graze off the rank grasses, and they also thankfully tackle and trample piri-piri bear, one of our non-native species. So in the other part of this, the site, the snook, we utilise temporary fencing, again just to maintain that open nature of the dune system as much as we possibly can. To the left there, you can see the sheep have grazed that section down, and then we'll switch them to the right section of the fencing where the grass is far ranker. We tend to use sheep in a targeted way, so we tackle areas which are particularly rank, but also of non-native species, primarily at the moment Michaelmas daisy, which is relatively localized, but still relatively extensive in that area. So Lindisfarne is well known for its amazing flora. This is arguably our star species, Lindisfarne Helleborine, reclassified from Dune Helleborine, restricted to approximately 2 square kilometers on Holy Island. Some of the other orchid species, coral root orchid there on the left, population, certainly in the transects that we cover, has slightly decreased in the past 2 to 3 years, but we still have a healthy population. And marsh helleborine, Epipactis palustris there on the right hand side, which is one of the spectacles really in in July time, where we have carpets of thousands of spikes. Early marsh orchid there on the left, and grass of Parnassus with an understory of the invasive Michaelmas daisy. All this rich flora, of course, benefits our invertebrate populations. Have a very, very strong population of dark green fritillary, with also ringlet and grayling recorded most years within the transect area. We have both grey and harbour seals. There's a picture there of a grey seal, with counts numbering between 4,000 and 4,500 in the past 2 to 3 years. In recent seasons, we're engaged in utilising high position drones to get accurate non-intrusive counts of the colonies. There's approximately 4 to 5 main haul-out sites within the National Nature Reserve. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about the work that we do, both in engagement and in management, and opportunities to get involved, please check out our social media platforms. Thanks again. Bye now.